Hi, folks. Somebody asked the question, how much is designing a game like writing a story? Well, this varies with what kind of game you're going to design. If you're designing a video game experience, quote unquote, where usually the player takes a role and then experiences that role in a variety of situations, then it might resemble story somewhat. But for me, at least, designing a game is not like writing a story because what you need for a game is mechanisms or mechanics that cause something to happen. What happens may end up being like a story, but it's not the case where you do the story and then design mechanics, not usually. There may be something you want to represent, and then you know what you want to represent and you create or borrow mechanics to do it, but that's not like writing a story. I like to let the players write the story. And so I like to set up situations that are interesting and have lots of possibilities and let the players create whatever story comes out of it. But there are people who want to impose their own story onto a game, and then designing the game may be more like writing a story. Now, this all comes back to something called the MDA, which is one way of thinking about games. It stands for mechanics or mechanisms, dynamics, and aesthetics. And I prefer impression to aesthetics because it's a bit confusing. So you have in a game mechanics, and a great many beginners, when they're asked to write down their notions for a game, they write down a story. They don't write down mechanics, and so they have nothing. They certainly don't have a game. You need to have the mechanics. Then the mechanics interact with the players or player, and that's the D, the dynamics. And the result is some kind of impression on the player, or aesthetics as the original way went. And that impression on the player may be the thing you start out thinking about when you start to make the game, what you want the player to feel. Now, without mechanics, none of this is going to happen. The dynamics is going to vary a great deal depending on the players, and this is one reason why games cannot be designed for everyone. They have to be designed for a particular segment of the market that you're aiming at. And then you may get the impressions that you want. But that doesn't sound like much like writing a story to me. Maybe it is. Maybe some people write stories thinking those kinds of terms. But to me, it's game design, not story writing. Thanks for listening.